Bleach Thousand Year Blood War episode 28, titled Kill the King, marks a major turning point in the series. I do believe that this is the first proper episode of Core 3 as we continue the final arc of the Bleach series, with this episode roughly adapting material from chapters 612 to 614, and even some manga panels from chapter 615 are adapted here. The episode exceeds all expectations as it also introduces us to an impressive 8 minutes of anime original content featuring a never before seen fight between Yhwach and Ichigo. This addition significantly alters the flow of the story in comparison to the manga. Pierrot Films don't hold back as they deliver one of the most incredible episodes of Bleach to date, with the pacing and the order of events diverging in bold ways from Tite Kubo's original manga. The anime staff have plenty of time to reveal to us new details like Yhwach's backstory, as well as exploring more information about the past of the Soul King. These are details that were not a part of the manga, but they do add so much missing depth to the story. The anime takes massive liberties with the structure of episode 28 because so much material is changed from how it happens in the manga. This is especially surrounding the timing of events and how dialogue from the manga is being reworked into new anime-only scenes. Things like the Gote 13's meeting with Urahara and the events that unfold at the Royal Palace are heavily reworked here, and I do think that the changes are for the better. But before I give everything away in the intro of the video, let's begin my manga versus anime comparison of Bleach Thousand Year Blood War episode 28. Be sure to stick around until the very end of this video because I will be explaining crucial details that are easy to miss, and I'll be explaining some of the most jaw-dropping new pieces of information from the episode which may have left you wanting to know more. Refraining from talking about scenes which are one-to-one adaptations from the manga, and I'll solely be focusing on what has been cut, changed, and added to the anime. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Hollow Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. The episode begins with dialogue from the very end of chapter 611, and this is immediately after Yhwach impales the Soul King. For this reason, the first 2 pages of chapter 612 are not adapted into the anime as they reveal what happens moments before Yhwach stabs the Soul King. We see the bodies of the gods of the Soul King while Yhwach walks forward. There is dialogue here which is reworked into an anime original scene later in the episode, and this is where Yhwach refers to the Soul King as an imperfect god who is unable to escape even in a moment like this. The anime original flashback then begins, and it truly is fascinating as we see the 2 eyes of the Soul King with the Almighty activated, and it takes on an appearance that we have never seen before. Each iris has a kaleidoscope effect with this multicolored prismatic look as the irises appear like jewels that are reflecting light. I assume that each of these colors represent a piece of the future that the Soul King is seeing. This is a visual representation of his omniscience. We then see a very young teenage Yhwach with half of his body submerged in this ocean, which may be an endless stream of reishi. Now this moment here depicts a part of the Bleach world and how it looked before Hueco Mundo, the Soul Society, and the world of the living had even existed. So this is one area of the original primordial world of Bleach, and it's our first proper reveal of this original world in the Bleach anime. The scene then shifts to a distant shot of the Soul King who is floating on this water with his sword pointing downwards as ripples spread out from him. We then cut back to Yhwach, and he has grown older and he looks like a young adult now with longer hair. We did briefly see this moment during Ichigo's journey down Irazusando in Thousand Year Blood War Core 2, but now we are getting a very clear glimpse as the Soul King wields a mysterious sword and he points it over the vast ocean, and we are then shown these these 3 ripples form on the water's surface. This is revealing to us the moment that the Soul King split reality into the 3 realms. We cut back to Yhwach and he now appears to be the age of Old Man Zangetsu, or how he had looked like when he had first launched the attack on the Soul Society 1,000 years ago. The water then quickly overflows and submerges Yhwach completely, as we then see him rapidly de-age and become a baby. Meanwhile, we see the Soul King's limbs severed and the sword in the distance, revealing the moments that had led up to him being encased within the crystalline structure. We are then shown a flashback from the very start of episode 14 with Yhwach as a baby, as it seems like he was reborn into the world after the Soul King had split reality. Now this is incredibly important because we get a brief shot of young Yhwach with a tear rolling down his face, and he is upset for a number of reasons. Firstly, before reality was split into 3 realms, there was only one eternal realm where the concept of death did not exist. The Soul King introduced death and the fear of death into reality. This links to Yhwach because as a baby, he was born without the ability to see, hear, or move. He had gained strength to use his senses and to acquire more power by sharing a piece of his soul with others. Yhwach was able to cure the ailments of others by touching them, and when these individuals died, they would return the fragment of Yhwach's soul to him, and this in turn would also empower him. However, with each piece that had returned, he would hear the overwhelming cries of their fear. They did not want to die, they were afraid. Now have this happen to you a few thousand times, and you'll understand why Yhwach had felt abandoned and betrayed by the Soul King, who is his father. The betrayal stems from the Soul King having the strongest form of the Almighty, with the 4 irises that we had just seen. With this, the Soul King was able to foresee the future of all beings within every realm. He knew that the suffering mortal beings would endure by introducing the concept of death to reality. He knew that the Quincy, which his son would go on to lead, would endure a humiliating defeat and exile at the hands of the Soul Society. Most shocking of all, the Soul King knew that he would become a powerless linchpin, a sacrifice for the sake of this new reality, one that exists for the sole purpose of maintaining the stability of the newly created realms. Despite the Soul King knowing that all of this would happen, he still decided to split the eternal world and let things unfold as he had foreseen them. This is why Yhwach asks him if he has heard the screams in his heart of those who have been abandoned by him. We then get a visual of Ichigo laying on the ground defeated, and this I believe to be the fate of Ichigo. Initially, this moment is shown to us via the perspective of Yhwach, but then we cut to the eyes of Ichigo as we see him ascending to the royal palace to stop Yhwach. It seems like he too was shown the future that awaits him, and he even briefly thinks, what was that just now? Now this is an entirely anime original scene where we see Orihime use her powers to carry the team upwards. This is followed by new material as we get this close-up shot of the Soul King, and then this shot of Ichibei from behind. Even more anime original scenes are shown to us here as they hint at how a lot of manga moments are being reworked in this week's episode. We see Renji ask what are these tremors, as Rukia says that she has never felt anything like this before, and she has a bad feeling about this. It's to be noted that Byakuya is also seen standing behind them. There is also an anime original scene with Mayuri as one of his subordinates is dragging 4 cylinders behind them, and we can assume that these contained the zombified bodies of Kensei, Rose, Hitsugaya, and Rangiku. Mayuri comments on the tremors that they are experiencing as he says that the 3 realms have become unstable. As he looks up towards the sky wondering just what on earth are the Quincy thinking to do. We are then shown multiple reactions from across the Serete, including Bazbi and the Bambis, and this is before we cut to Karakura Town and we see Ryuken sitting at his desk and he is holding pieces of the Silver of Stillness. This is incredible foreshadowing, and I love that they're showing this so early in the story here. We see also a frame on his desk of his late wife Kanai Katagiri holding a young Uryu. Isshin is also shown to be reacting to the tremors as he stands outside of Kurosaki Clinic. We cut to Yhwach as new dialogue is mixed with text from page 2 of chapter 612. In the manga, this is shown moments before Yhwach Yhwach stabs the Soul King, but in comparison to the anime, he has already stabbed the Soul King here, and he goes on to say the manga dialogue moments before Ichigo and the others arrive. So the new dialogue of this scene has him asking if the Soul King can hear the footsteps of the dawn of a new world. Then dialogue from the manga is said as he speaks about how he will bring an end to the Soul King's endless humiliation. So from the beginning of chapter 612, we then cut to chapter 613 as the final shot of this pre-opening scene ends with material adapted from page 12 of chapter 613, with Yhwach noticing that Ichigo and the others have arrived to confront him. After the opening song, the episode starts by adapting material from pages 10 to 11 of chapter 614, and the order of events is heavily changed around, because the rest of chapter 614 is adapted towards the end of the episode as we now transition to an all-new anime original fight sequence between Ichigo and Yhwach. Before the fight begins, we get some anime original dialogue from Yuha, who tells Ichigo that everything is under his control. So this fight features some incredible art and animation, including Ichigo firing multiple Getsuga Tensho attacks, the two of them hurtling throughout the skies as they fly over all of the different cities of the royal palace. This is highlighted as we see shots of multiple areas, including Korinji's hot springs. During the fight, Yhwach uses Sanct Bogen and Ichigo deflects it with a Getsuga Tensho. Yhwach uses Qualcrease, a ability previously used in Bleach Thousand Year Blood War episode 7. Unlike last time when Ichigo was buried under rubble following the attack, with his Jewel Zanpakuto he is able to neutralize the attack much to Yhwach's surprise. Ichigo fires a Getsuga Jujisho, but Yhwach immediately responds with a Sanct Zwinger. Both of the attacks collide, creating a gigantic cross shape in the sky, with Yhwach coming crashing down into one of the discs that float around the Greater Soul King Palace. Yuha reveals that Ichigo's training has certainly made him stronger, as he assumes that he must have entered Irazu Sando under the guidance of the Zero Division, and he is aware that Irazu Sando would have given Ichigo its everlasting memories and revelations. But Yuha says that even going through all of that training is not enough, as he reveals that he has not even used the powers of the Almighty yet in the fight. After getting back up, he activates the Almighty as we begin the next phase of the fight. Yuha easily overwhelms Ichigo here, as he appears to be no match for the Almighty. Yhwach says to Ichigo that he finally sees it, but yet he still decides to turn his blade against him. This is in reference to the flashbacks of the Soul King that Ichigo had seen during his training in Irazu Sando. Yuha tells him that the more that he turns his blade against him, then the more deeper that he will fall into despair. Yuha continues to repeat himself as he says that he has seen everything about Ichigo's future too. So Ichigo comes crashing down in front of Orihime and the others as Yhwach rises victorious over him. Rukia and Renji then get a reworked interaction which actually alters their appearance in pages 6 to 9 of chapter 612. It is to be noted that this interaction is while they are on the way to Urahara's lab. In chapter 612, they actually land outside of the lab and meet with Shinji, Soifon, and Omaida. However, the anime pretty much cuts all of these interactions out completely from chapter 612, as instead we have two anime original scenes involving the two parties. So let's first go over the 3 cut pages from the manga chapter. So the two of them arrive and they get the attention of Shinji, and there's a lot of comedic light-hearted banter here which is removed from the anime, where Renji says that Shinji looks like he's gone through hell, but then Omaida backs Shinji up as he appears to have a lot of respect for him since Shinji had arrived to rescue him and his sister. Soifon is also seen telling Omaida to quieten down as she explains that the injuries on Omaida's sister were healed thanks to the hard work of Momo. Soifon also surprisingly tells Renji to cut Omaida some slack when Renji questions why he had brought his sister to the battlefield. Renji kind of compliments Soifon here as he says that she is mellowed out, but Rukia dismisses him, saying that Soifon has always been nice. Now this is fascinating. Soifon ushers all of them to go into the lab as Renji questions whether if everybody is here, and then from Shinji we get elaboration as to why everybody has come to the lab. Apparently they had all received a message that all captains and lieutenants need to disengage from whatever fight they are partaking in, and they need to come to the lab as fast as possible. So yeah, all of this isn't in this episode. In the anime, Renji asks what is happening in response to all of the tremors that they are experiencing. Rukia says that Urahara may have an idea of what's going on, as she says that they should head to the research and development department, and Renji tries to lead but he points in the wrong direction as Rukia leads the way instead. Now, the anime shows us Shinji, Omaida, and Soifon's characters with new dialogue with a reworked scene too. Shinji comments on the shaking going on for a long time as Omaida wonders if the other captains and lieutenants are doing okay. Soifon reassures him, saying that if he is fine then the others must be fine too. Now, Renji's line from the manga where he compliments Soifon has instead been given to Shinji, and it's Momo who responds as she agrees with him. Shinji compliments Momo as he says that she did a great job on healing them, but he says that it's a shame that she wasn't able to heal Soifon's sharp tongue. Momo kind of agrees, but then she immediately apologizes, realizing that Soifon is behind her, but Soifon is too focused on the unusual tremors and the changes in the air. But Shinji tells her that it's useless to rack their heads over it, as he advises her to stop yapping or else they're going to leave her behind. But Soifon ends up rushing off before them, as it seems like they too are headed towards the lab. Now we then get a fascinating scene of Ukitake treating Kinpachi. He is working desperately as he pleads with Kinpachi that he cannot die yet. So the anime does have these really cool panning shots, and we see Mayuri and Nemu here with the 4 cylinders, and in the background we can see somebody moving around, and it looks like Byakuya, who is heading towards the lab. So the anime then continues with more anime original material, which is reworking manga content, as Akon talks about how Urahara needs tremendous amounts of spiritual pressure in order to create the gate. Then we have a new scene of Nanao speaking with Urahara. She asks Urahara to confirm that this war had begun with the Quincy's grudge against the Shinigami following their defeat 1,000 years ago. Urahara confirms that this is correct, but she is confused about why the Quincy's had headed to the royal palace instead of destroying the Shinigami. Urahara turns around to look at her as the scene cuts away. Now, fascinatingly, this anime original scene, which is the aftermath of Ichigo vs Yhwach, reveals some critical information and dumps quite a bit of lore to us. Yuha tells Ichigo that he must have seen it too, the eternal world that had once existed, as well as the darkness that had threatened this eternal world. He tells Ichigo that he had seen the true power of the Soul King, which was strong enough to repel the darkness. But even someone as strong as the Soul King, who has the power to overturn the world, had ended up being used for the sake of bringing stability to reality. Yuha explains that the Soul King was able to see everything that was going to happen in the 3 realms of Hueco Mundo, the world of the living, and the Soul Society. He would even be able to see 1,000 years into the future with his clear vision. The Soul King had foresaw the tragedy of the Quincy when they had lost to the Shinigami, as Yuha says that the Soul King, Adonius, had foresaw it all. Despite seeing everything, the Soul King still decided to abandon the Quincy's. Urahara responds to Nanao as he says that the Quincy's have faced near extinction twice, all because of them not fitting into the system of this world, which is centered around the Shinigami, who serve to exist as balancers who maintain and govern over the flow of souls between the Soul Society and the world of the living. Urahara says that if the Quincy King has arrived at the royal palace, then it can be for only one reason. We then cut to Yhwach as he reveals his goal, stating that he is going to kill his father and create a new world. The name of the Soul King was first teased to us during the Ashvalan chant read out in Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 26. And in fact, the name of the Soul King was also teased to be revealed by Kubo on his fan club outside. In question 483, Kubo had responded by saying that the Soul King actually has a name outside of his title, and the name may be revealed in the anime. The Soul King's name, Adonius, is actually taken from the Gnostic Archon god, and in Gnostic tradition, Adonius, or as he is also known as Adonai, is an archon or a god associated with the sun, and it is often seen as a divine but binding force which is responsible for maintaining the mortal soul's attachment to the physical world. This concept does align with the role that the Soul King plays within Bleach, as he is a sustainer of the cycle of life and death across the Soul Society, the human world, and Hueco Mundo. In Bleach, Yhwach's use of the Ashvalan technique, which is a redistribution of energy which sacrifices sacrifices certain Quincy's in order to empower others has a lot of parallels with the Archon god Adonius. The Ashvalan acts as a holy selection, and it reflects a Gnostic belief in a selective divine hierarchy where power is granted or taken based on divine judgment. This mirrors the way that Adonius oversees the binding of souls, with Yhwach using Ashvalan to reclaim and redistribute energy, which is similar to Adonius's control over the fate of souls. The incantation used during Ashvalan also references a coffin of Adonius, suggesting that there is a binding or containment of light and life within a coffin. In Gnosticism, often this symbolizes the sun's role in both nurturing and entombing. The Soul King, like Adonius, embodies both life-giving and restrictive power, ultimately reflecting a dual nature of creation and confinement. This concept provides a huge layer of depth to the symbolism that the Soul King's role has within Bleach, where he is both the source of all spiritual energy and a figure whose existence limits the world by ensuring a fundamental balance is always maintained. When Core 2 ended, several people on the Bleach subreddit actually began to come out with several theories about the Soul King's name being Adonius, so huge props to these people for coming to this conclusion before everyone else. For now, this is as much depth as I can go into in this video, but in a few days I'll drop a dedicated video on this subject matter about the Soul King's name and more details about this huge Bleach theory that I have been working on, and how all of this actually links back to the Hell Arc, so you definitely do not want to miss that video. Despite hearing Yhwach's reasoning, Ichigo gets back up, drawing his swords ready to fight once again, as Yuha wonders if he has a reason to fight him. Ichigo says that he has come here to stop him and to protect the Three Realms. Yhwach warns him that the Quincy blood which is flowing through his body will not let him accept the existence of the Soul King. This anime original scene amazingly ends with Ichigo charging towards Yhwach as Orihime is seen behind him, healing him very quickly. We then cut to material from the first 3 pages of chapter 613, and this is where Ichibei apologizes to Ichigo and the others, and this happens while a anime original scene is being shown of Ichigo firing a Getsuga Tensho towards Yhwach. The manga, however, has Ichibei apologizing before Ichigo and the others actually confront Yhwach, while in the anime it is well after the confrontation and after Ichigo begins his battle against Yhwach. Now, it's at the 15-minute mark where we reach the midpoint of the episode. The second half of the episode begins with an anime original scene of Rukia and Renji speaking, and Renji asks Rukia, could it be that the Zero Division have lost? Rukia says that she isn't sure, but the spiritual pressure causing tremors within the Soul Society must be as a result of one of the Zero Division members releasing their Bankai or something equivalent to it. Renji wonders if this really is the cause of the tremors, as Rukia suggests that this is a best case scenario, but she is feeling uneasy about the situation. She just hopes that Ichigo and the others are not in danger. Now, this is a pretty cool scene as Renji reassures her here that they will stop Yhwach no matter what, and they need to believe in them without having any doubts. When Rukia and Renji land at Urahara's lab, like I mentioned before, we cut the interaction between them, Shinji, Omaida, and Soifon from chapter 612, as we see them walk straight into the lab after they greet each other. The rest of chapter 612 is heavily reworked, as a lot of material is cut and reworked to fit the streamlining of the anime. The anime makes it seem like they all spontaneously decided to return to the lab, but the manga is very direct that Urahara sent out a message for the captains and lieutenants to return. Let's first go over the manga version so that we can appreciate the full extent of the changes here. So chapter 612, we begin with Yushiro greeting Shinji, Renji, and the others as Soifon gushes over Yushiro being there, and this is where we get a hilarious moment in the manga where Soifon gives some pocket change to Yushiro. But from this light-hearted moment, we quickly shift to Shinji asking Urahara what is going on, as he then updates them on the battle situation with each of the captains and lieutenants, including how they haven't been able to reach the captain and lieutenant of Squad 10. Now, we know that they are in those cylinders that Mayuri is dragging around with him. Now, this is important. Shinji asks Urahara why is it that he has gathered all of them here, what is he intending on doing? Now, here Urahara tells them clearly that he wants to storm the royal palace, saying that it is possible unbearable with the combined spiritual energy of all of the captain class Shinigami who have assembled here. The anime cuts out all of this, as it just has Urahara say that he is glad that they could all make it, and he has been waiting for them as he needs their strength for something that he is planning. Rukia does ask Urahara what the cause of the tremors could be, as he responds saying that he isn't sure of the exact cause, but he knows that these tremors are tied to the safety of the Soul King. We then cut back to round 2 of Ichigo vs Yhwach, and there's more anime original material here, as Yuha tells Ichigo that he is arrogant for wanting to protect everyone. He asks him if he really thinks that he is the only one who can do this, as Ichigo says that even if someone else is able to do it, it doesn't mean that he should run away and do nothing. Yuha says that Ichigo, despite knowing that the Soul King is a sacrifice who exists to maintain the balance of the realms, why is it that he still wants to oppose Yhwach by protecting the Soul King? Before Ichigo has an opportunity to answer, we then cut to Yoruichi laying out her wire trap, and this is actually taken from page 14 of chapter 615. Unlike in the manga, where Yoruichi uses this move as a distraction so that Orihime can heal the Soul King, in the anime it is randomly inserted here during Yhwach's fight with Ichigo. The wires are easily burnt away by Yhwach's reishi. The flames of the reishi that Yhwach used burn away the curtain that is concealing the Soul King behind him. We loosely return to manga content from chapter 614, page 11, where Yuha reveals that he knows that before coming here they had met with Ichibei and they had revived him, and he had talked them into coming here, continuing to say that they have arrived too late as we are shown the Soul King impaled. The anime shows us a brief flashback from the end of the last episode where Yuha impales the Soul King, and the manga simply has Yhwach declare that the Soul King is dead and there is nothing that they can do now. However, the anime replaces this with dialogue from Ganju, who asks if the Soul King is dead and if Yhwach had killed him. Yoruichi says that he is still alive, and this leads to Ichigo rushing to pull the sword out of the Soul King's body. The anime continues on track with the manga as it adapts the remainder of chapter 614, as Yhwach's explanation of the Quincy blood in Ichigo's body, which is not accepting the Soul King to exist, happens before he cuts the Soul King in the anime, but in the manga he says this after the Soul King is cut down. Following the death of the Soul King, we get an anime original scene with Yhwach explaining in order to completely destroy the seal of the Soul King, it's important that one must possess Quincy, human, Shinigami, Fullbringer, and Hollow powers, which are all combined. This is why Ichigo was needed by Yhwach to complete this final step of destroying the Soul King. Yuha continues to explain that Ichigo awakened his powers as a Shinigami and acquired all of his subsequent powers, all for the sake of this one moment, where he would end the life of the Soul King. We then do get some anime original scenes of the three realms shaking, as the anime shows the devastating impact on reality after the death of the Soul King. We get the collapse of the roof of Urahara's lab, and this is somewhat taken from chapter 615, and this is reworked into this scene here. We also see the tremors in Hueco Mundo, and most notably we cut to Karakura town with Ichigo's friends Keigo, Mizuhiro, and Tatsuki, as they say that there is no information about the epicenter of the earthquake and it's not normal. They assume that this must be something to do with the Soul Society, as Tatsuki looks at the soul pass that Shunsui had given to her and thinks of Ichigo. We then switch to manga content from chapter 615 with Urahara getting up from the rubble asking, is the Soul King dead? The anime does have new dialogue for Nanao asking if Ichigo and the others didn't make it. We then cut back to dialogue from chapter 615 with Shinji exclaiming, what are the Zero Division doing? Ukitake is seen in the anime standing outside despite us not having really seen him finishing this treatment of Kinpachi, and this was in fact shown in detail in the manga before Ichigo killed the Soul King. Akon wondering what is going to happen next is also a new scene in the anime. Now, the episode omits a single manga panel from chapter 615 where Urahara explains what he logically thinks is going on. In the manga he says that he doesn't want to believe it, but Squad Zero was wiped out and Ichigo didn't make it in time. Instead of having this, the anime adapts the following panels with Urahara saying that if they do nothing, then at this rate the three realms will cease to exist. The episode ends by adapting the final page of chapter 614 where Yhwach tells Ichigo that together they will witness the end of the Soul Society. And then we cut to the title card for Bleach episode 28, Kill the King, as the outro song starts to play. Because of how much has been reworked from the manga, there are still two notable omissions from chapters 613 and 614 614 in this episode, which I haven't covered, and this is mostly content surrounding the lab and all of the captains and lieutenants that have gathered. I think a lot of this stuff from these two chapters may be reworked and adapted into next week's episode, but I do struggle to think how it's going to be done, because it's a mixture of light-hearted and serious moments, and I don't know how it's going to be included with the three realms about to collapse and everyone being really concerned. I mean, in particular, chapter 613 shows Ukitake leaving the treatment room as he says that everybody is back on track, revealing that he has healed Kinpachi. But in this episode, we had seen Ukitake standing with everybody, as we are left to assume that he must have healed Kinpachi. The manga gives more of a detailed breakdown as to what is going on from chapter 613, as pages 4 to 13 were not included at all. We see Kinpachi leaving the treatment room as he tries to leave and find Yachiro, but Urahara stops him with a Kido barrier, and Nanao has to even intervene in order to convince Kinpachi to stay and help Urahara. Urahara tells everybody to stand inside of the circle and to pour their energy into the orbs that he hands to them as they prepare to storm the royal palace. In addition to this, the Vizards arriving and Urahara explaining their role is also removed from this episode, and this is content from pages 1 to 9 of chapter 614. So yeah, this is the Vizards once again returning to the story as Urahara explains that he wants to create a gate to enter the royal palace, as the Vizards are told that there are Shinigami Shihakusho there for them to wear as they join with the Gotei 13 to storm the royal palace. Now yeah, I am under the impression that all of this stuff is going to be hopefully included in episode 29 in some way. So this week's episode didn't have a post-credit scene, and it really was a difficult task to determine just what was and wasn't adapted, because so many scenes occur out of sequence, which is fine, but then you have manga dialogue which is mixed in with a lot of anime original scenes. This means that entire moments from the manga are not being cut, but are instead being reworked for the anime. This truly is a reimagining of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, and there is a huge deviation in the way that the story is being told in the anime, because there is so much more that is being revealed to us in comparison to the manga. A lot of concepts that we only know from the Can't Be Your Own World light novels are also being included here, and honestly, this is a dream come true. This is what we were all waiting for. It feels surreal to experience the final arc of Bleach the way that Kubo had intended for it to be written in the manga. I'm really looking forward to next week with episode 29, which is titled The Dark Arm, because Ukitake is going to get a spotlight shined on him, and we already saw a new scene involving him in this episode, so I'm excited to see more new content involving his character. We've covered a lot of stuff in this video, but now I do want to know all of your thoughts about episode 28. Did you enjoy the anime original editions? Has the video helped you to better understand what is going on? Do you agree with how the anime handled the manga content this week? I look forward to reading all of your comments, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you next week for my breakdown and analysis of episode 29 of the all-new Bleach 1000-Year Blood War arc anime. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.